Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the CRKT Tuna. Very interesting little knife, a Burnley design. Lucas Burnley is a very well-known designer and interesting fella in general, but there you go. First off, though, in the name of full disclosure, this guy was sent to me directly by CRKT. That's right, Cricket said, hey, Nick, want to check one out? I said, sure, but I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. Might be a gem, might be junk. They still send it along. We do have to assume, though, this is the very best quality controlled one of these guys ever, and I'm doing my best not to let that affect the nature and quality of my review. Next thing, let's do some size comparison real quick. Here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2, against the Spyderco Delica, and against the Spyderco PM2. And so we can see, actually, it's not a small knife. In terms of sharpened blade length, we are almost identical to the PM2, and in fact, in blade profile overall, relatively similar to the PM2, at least on the cutting edge there. So there is that. And then finally, yeah, actually, I think that pretty much does it. So let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your CRKT Tuna right over here. So on the good side, to start with, you know what? There's a lot of just solidity here, so to speak. What I mean by that is that the ergos on this guy are solid. They work very well in the hand. It fits well in the hand, and then no problems there. The lockup on this guy is absolutely solid. It is a steel frame lock, but it's got some nice internal milling to reduce the weight on it a little bit, leading to actually pretty solid balance right there. But good balance. It actually came with a very sharp edge. The blade on it is otherwise okay. It's a little bit thick at the edge, not terrible, but a little bit. But it came actually surprisingly sharp, which is very, very nice. Next thing, it actually does have some very nice little details, one of which is the fact that you can see here under the clip, this is a deep carry style clip. Under the clip there, you got 2 screws, but those 2 screws are recessed in there, and the clip itself is recessed, meaning that there is really nothing underneath there except the handle of the blade, which makes this guy, or I'm sorry, the handle of the knife, that is. And that makes this guy very, very easy to get into and out of the pocket. The lock bar interference accepted. It's a very, very nice little detail there. Next thing on this guy, I have to say, the action on this guy is good to go. I'll try and do it with no wrist at all, and should still be able to manage, yeah. Properly adjusted, running on good lubrication and whatnot. This guy has a fine action. It's very reliable, easy to get open, and that's a beautiful thing. Then finally, on the good side, this guy is a very nice little price. We're looking at $45 here, which I think is absolutely good to go. I mean, look, there were certainly some decisions I hope they make a little bit differently, but this is the kind of price range at which good design can carry the day for CRKT, and so there you go. So to me, all of that is the good, is that the price is reasonable, the action's reasonable. It's got a couple of nice little details here. It came very, very sharp with a solid lockup and solid ergonomics. To me, what's great about this guy actually is that design. Look, personally, I like this color scheme a lot, because we've got what appear to be some kind of, I'm not sure if it's aluminum or brass or something like that, probably aluminum, some variety, but we have this kind of a goldish, coppery sort of aesthetic coming here, and then similarly again in the back spacer, then similarly on this side. It's nice with a black wash back to the knife, as well as a black washer, black and stone washer, whatever you want to call it, sort of blade on there. Honestly, I think this is a relatively attractive knife. And if you are particularly interested in the style this guy's got, you're probably going to like this guy. So, to me at least, that's what's great here, is that this is a very attractive design and a reasonably well-styled knife. On the bad side, unfortunately, there are some downsides here. I mean, to start with, it's $45. So, you know what? A lot of these things are a little bit nitpicky, but it is definitely 8CR14 MOV steel, and you know what? That's a steel that's getting less and less impressive every day. The fact is, even at $45, a lot of the Chinese OEMs are doing a little bit better work in terms of materials and things like that, and so I really do hope that CRKT is able to start up in their game in steel to start matching some of those makers. Next thing, this is running on Teflon washers. Yeah, honestly, I'm just not so impressed. The action on it is fine. It gets by. It's okay, but it's a Teflon-y action, a little bit of stick slip-it-dude. I just don't care for Teflon washes. This might be personal bias, but I really wish they could just do phosphor bronze and do it right? $45 is a price point at which Teflon is starting to feel less and less okay. Next thing, this definitely has the clip right on top of the lock bar relief, and what that means is that, in practice, you've just got a little bit more impediment to getting this guy in and out of the pocket. It's a little bit more likely to kind of snag there, and that's not something I particularly appreciate. Next thing, this unfortunately is CRKT has had a rash of really bad T6 screws on their latest models. Because what you can see here is there is this little dip down in there where there's kind of a pocket going into the screw hole itself. And what that means is you only have a little tiny bit of thread, or a little bit of Torx head engagement there, which I'm sure is fine for the initial installation when there's no thread lock or anything like that. But unfortunately, T6 screws are bad enough, but T6 with these really shallow heads means that you barely have any surface to engage with. And as a result, these tend to both kill drivers as well as just not turn out so great. And so couple that with pretty heavy thread locker, I'm not a big fan of that. It's also free spinning, by the way, which is yet another downside there. So I'm really not super impressed with this in terms of construction. This has been the case with a couple of recent CRKT models. I'm not a fan of that. Next thing, this guy unfortunately has it's got a sharpening choil, but it's not nearly long enough. You can see here that the plunge grind comes all the way out to here, and the sharpening choil only comes to here. I really wish they'd gone that extra mile, because as it stands, we've got a smile down at the bottom here, and this part of the edge is just barely sharp at all. So I really wish they'd taken the sharpening choil out just a little bit further. Then finally on the bad side, this guy is a little bit heavy. I'll measure the blade first so we know what we're working with there. We are coming in right around 3.25 inches, but we're coming in around 3.78 ounces. Is it like, oh my god, heavy? No, not particularly, but that's the downside of doing a steel frame lock, right? Tends to be a little bit of a heavier knife. So, to me at least, that's what's bad here, is that it's a little heavy. They screwed up the sharpening choil big time. These little tiny T6s with the head sloping into the bit, not so good. It's got a clip over the lock bar relief running on Teflon washers with 8CR 14 MOV steel. Final conclusion front, there's nothing particularly ugly here. I could probably argue that the screws are ugly, but I think for a lot of people who, anyways, I digress. Final conclusion, it's a fine knife. You know, look, everything about it is kind of fine. It's got a few nice details. The ergos are fine, the action's fine, the lockup is fine, the blade is fine, the price is fine. Honestly, the design is about the only thing that's above the average CRKT in this. And, you know, sadly, though, the steel is a little bit below average for this guy. They're using Teflon washers, which I definitely am not a big fan of. They've got these bad T6 screws. They screwed up the sharpening choil. The knife's a little bit heavy. Ultimately, this is a knife that in CRKT's lineup looks absolutely fine. You know, it's okay. You know, with the design, if you pick it up what they're putting down design-wise here, it can be a little bit better than okay, but by and large, it's mostly okay. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just sort of fine. Unfortunately, though, CRKT has more competition than ever at this $45 price point. You are in the world now of, like, Rake, Ruwaiki, you're in the world of Civivi, you are in the world of even, like, CJRB and other Chinese companies who are delivering slightly better steels. They're delivering designs with slightly better actions. They're running on bearings rather than Teflon or even phosphor bronze in some cases. Be still my beating heart. But look, there are definitely a lot of people who are putting out much better than fine in this kind of a price bracket, and that's something that's a little bit problematic. So ultimately, my feelings about this guy that it's fine. If you're looking at this knife and you love the design, you're picking up what it's putting down, then sure, you go ahead and get one. It's going to be fine. But otherwise, if you're not necessarily there, you know what? The knife is just fine. And that's about as high praise as I can muster. So anyways, there you go. Hope this is interesting to you. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.